We will get started because it is 4:02. We will get started. Okay. Yeah. So hi everyone. Thanks for joining on a Sunday afternoon. And like say the Unnati session has been happening from like say some time now. But even then, like say generally what we have like say tried to do is because people from outside also we ask them to come and share their thoughts outside of India. That is why the timings sometimes are very haphazard. The point is, I welcome all of you for this the latest edition of the Unnati. So, as you all know, Unnati's focus from the UEC Graduates Association is giving idea about the higher education, the opportunities related to the higher education across domains, and of course in India and outside India, both because I know many of you will have questions, many of you would want to know about it, and like say, it is always difficult at some later point to go and reach out to someone and ask them, okay, what do I do? How do I go about? So what we thought was for UVC, the students of UVC, we wanted to make sure that they get an opportunity to interact with the alumni and get to know from their own. That is much more easier rather than you go around and search and etc. So UVC Graduates Association, like say it was formed in 2019 and we have around 1,800 plus members, registered members. So from that there were various ideas. We do various initiatives also. One among them is Unnati. Okay, so what we are going to do, like say through Unnati, is trying to build the connection between the students and the alumni. That's the major focus. But the point is, this time we will be focusing on the higher education itself. That is why we called it as Unnati, and we thought, okay, let's start off with this. You will have, like, say, around 7 to 8 different sessions, topics on our YouTube channel. You can go and check it out. We have done from electronics, mechanical, CS, and within India, the IITs, how people went ahead with GATE, all those. Now, but this time, this edition is a very special one because what we are doing is majorly for the architecture students. So what we have is, I am very glad to tell you that we have two alumnus of UVC with us today, and I'm glad that they both, like say, kind of accepted. I know everyone is like say have their own timelines, and they'll everyone will be busy, but even with all those things, they kind of accepted and saying that yes, we are ready to kind of share our experience and etc. So I have here with me Reuben Jacob from 2015 B Architecture. He completed his master's in 2019 from Bartlett School of Architecture, UCL. And I have Veda Swaroop, who is from 2017 BArch, and he completed his master's in 2022 from National Institute of Design. So what we will do is, instead of me talking about them, I will like say go ahead and ask them to kind of introduce, give a brief about themselves. That will be the right way to start. Okay, so with that, what I will do is I'll ask first Reuben. You can go ahead, introduce yourself, and yes, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Satish. And also thanks everyone for agreeing to a later time because for me it's just morning here in London. Um, so yeah, just a little bit about me. I graduated 2015, as Satish said, from UVC, and I worked for a few years in Bangalore. Did worked in a little bit in landscape architecture in Shastri Associates. And then I worked for 2 years in Bhumiputra architecture. And after that, I sort of decided to slightly change what I was doing. So it's not just architecture. I was doing that on the side, but I was also doing kind of a design for like art installations and experiential design, as they call it now. And I was working with another alumnus, Annabelle Vegas, who graduated a few years before me. and she had gone to the Bartlett in UCL here in London. And you could say that that was a point of inspiration for me to, to see what opportunity is there in the Bartlett and apply, for a course at the Bartlett. So I applied, and luckily I got in. And I moved here to London in 2018. And the program I did was called Design for Performance and Interaction MArch. And it's a 15-month program. So it's not and it was a new program that had started just like I was only the second year of the program. So it's a very experimental program dealing with using new technologies, sensing technologies within the built environment. And that was exactly what I was going for. So I did that program for 15 months. And then I was because I was still here in the UK. COVID happened, so I could not return back to India. So I had to figure out what I'm going to do with my future, and I started looking at visa routes, and also so I secured a visa route, and then after that, I started looking for work. Initially, it was difficult because of the economy after COVID. So I was doing a lot of freelance work, and then eventually, I did get a job, but like not in architecture, but still design. I started work as a producer for exhibitions at also a design agency, but it's not architecture again. And so I was working there for almost like 2.5 years. I'm still a freelancer with them, but that role involved a lot of design for like art exhibitions. So I was still doing drawings and 3D models, but on a very different sort of scale and like much quicker. You see the timelines are much quicker, and you see the build happen much quicker. And then more recently, I just sort of shifted again, and now I am back working at where I graduated from, so UCL. I recently joined UCL as a technician. So my job now is to help the students who are doing the other courses to, better engage with the course. So my specialty is audiovisual. So I deal with things like sound design, projection mapping, lighting design within the built environment. And my job is to like help the students achieve their projects and their work. Uh, yeah, then just to give the best output for their final project. Yeah, so that's my introduction. I hope that was helpful.
Hey, thanks, Reuben. Thanks for the intro. Yeah, I mean, I am not like say that well, like say versed with the architecture related stuff, but that sounds very interesting. I'm pretty sure many of the people who have joined will also like say want to know more. We will get
Absolutely.
back to you. But yeah, let's jump to Veda Swaroop now. Veda, would you like to give the introduction, please? You're muted.
Still? Am I still muted?
No, no, it's fine. You can go ahead.
Yeah. No, just before I start about myself, I'm assuming what Reuben did was a multimedia design. It is multimedia. I mean, there is a course like this also coming up in India. It's called new media design. But yeah, anyway,
Okay,
thanks.
okay.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Veda, and I graduated from UVC doing my bachelor's under architecture, and the pass out year was 2017, and joining was 2012, like 5 years ago. Yeah, like post that, I don't know, like I'm assuming most of us who joined here are architects, and we have a year of internship to be done. Right, during my internship, I somehow I thought instead of going on working on architecture firm, I somehow decided to work with a retail firm. And it was a first mover in the sense I did not know if that was accepted by the school or not, but I just took a move. And that is what broadened me. Like it gave me a perspective that, okay, there is retail, and retail is not just interiors, And that is how I got to know that retail by itself could be a broader course. So I worked for a couple of years. Then I joined my master's from NID. NID is a National Institute of Design. They have branches in India. The IT related branch is in Bangalore, and the traditional branches are in Gandhinagar and Ahmedabad. Yeah, so I did my specialization in design for retail experience from NID. Post that, I worked with a couple of brands, say namely IFG. I worked with IFG, then I worked with Mike Fadden under different roles. Started as a retail designer, then jumped to branding, and currently I've finished. I mean, I quit all my job. Now I'm working on my startup. It's called Bigfoot.land. We can speak about that. And with the startup, I'm also consulting a science museum for their spatial needs. So pretty much that, like for now. But yeah, and thanks for inviting me.
Hey, thanks, Veda Swaroop. Just to let you know, I was talking to Adrian when he mentioned about you, right? The NID, like say, even after PUC, I had written the entrance exam for the undergraduate program. So NID has always been that something that was wanted to know a little bit more. So when he said, "Oh, there is one person who is from NID," I said, "Yeah, please ask him," because I wanted to know a little bit more the overall culture, and like say definitely the students also will be benefited out of that. Yeah. So yeah, what we'll do is maybe now, like say, you can initially tell that to the students and people who have recently joined the call, right? About how did you, like say, decide that this is the line that you wanted to opt for, and what is the process, and like say for entrance exam for that, or some details so that, like say, they'll get some idea about it.
All right, all right. So first of all, when I was in UVC, the only masters which at least I knew was we could do masters in MR. I did not know MDes initially, but when I started working with different firms, there were people from SPA, there were people from NID, NIFT. So these were the folks who introduced me. Oh, there is something called Masters in Design from NID, and that intrigued me. And I looked at their website. They have very interesting courses which are multidisciplinary. So let me brief it out how to make it to NID, or like what is the process like. So NID has bachelor's and it also has master's. I can speak about master's. So as a whole, NID it has 19 courses for masters, and all the masters are 2.5 years course, including 6 months of graduation project. So how do I put it? Like it's a three-process entrance. Like there is something called preliminary, where there is an entrance exam which is across India. They conduct across India, and everybody applies. I don't want to say it is tough or it is not tough. It is. I feel it comes with your experience, in the sense if you have traveled, if you have made friends, if you can speak design, it's definitely not a theoretical exam where something you read and you can crack it. I feel it is your journey, like which will because if I put it, 80% of it is subjective. Like the answers which you have to write, they don't have right answer or wrong answer. 80% is subjective and 20% is objective, where you can be sure about your answer. So yeah, preliminary happens, and each year they intake 15. When I joined, they intake 15 students for each branch. So the way it happens is they select 1:5. For every one person, they select 5% for the first round. You clear the first round, then you have your studio entrance, then you have interview. So you have to clear all these processes, and if you are one among those 15, you get to join the college. I mean, it's pretty simple, but it's beautiful. Like I'm glad I joined that college. Like it changes you. But anything else in detail if you want to ask Satish? I'm sure I missed.
No, sure. I understood. So, like, say you gave the gist about, like, say, about the process. Now, just before I move to Ruben, one question that I would like you to answer, which will help the people who have joined here, is how did you decide that this is the like, say, course, or this is the yeah.
So how did I decide? So as I said, in my graduation, in the fifth year of architecture, we all have to do a graduation project. I decided to work with a retail firm, which is in Bangalore. It's called Four Dimension. And it is also run by one of our very senior alumni. It's called Sham Sundar. I'm sure some of you know. And I worked with him. That is what opened me up that retail is a broader subject. It's not just interior. Whenever I introduced that I was working with a retail firm, people thought it's a interior course. But when I stepped in, I realized that, I mean, 4D also had people working like who graduated from NID. So they educated me saying, okay, there is a specialization called design for retail experience in NIDs. And I studied further. So it consists of your spatial needs. It consists you get to understand how to like brand a brand, how to packaging, strategical calls. I mean, like I just realized that retail is not just interiors; it's much broader. And frankly, I want to show that the first entry was taking a step to work at a retail firm, which boosted me to look for broader things instead of just thinking about MR. I was very sure I did not want to do MR, but this broadened me.
Understood. Understood. Sure. Yeah. So maybe we'll switch once to Ruben and ask him about how did you decide and how was the process there, Ruben?
Thanks, Veda. That was interesting to hear. I also didn't realize the trajectory you took was into retail. I did know you were working with Shamsundar. But yeah, I didn't, NID, I think we lost touch. Yeah, so for me, I mean, I did architecture for a few years. I wasn't as, I think, you know, intuitive as Veda, being like, oh, I want to get into this thing. I was like, oh, I've studied this for years. I need to do this now. So I worked for like 2, 3 years almost in traditional architecture, and it's good. Like it's a brilliant career to pursue, and like don't like those of you who want to do architecture, do architecture. We need good architects, but I felt like it's not entirely for me. Also just seeing uh, people do art. I would say I was really drawn to the art world, and like just things that happen with technology driven art. So another alumni who graduated from UVC is Annabelle. She also did her master's at UCL, the Bartlett, and she came back to India, and she now runs a place called The Workshop in Bangalore, which I'm sure is quite known amongst our uh, alumni community. And yeah, even if you guys don't know, please know about it, because you can go, and it's got good facilities with like tools that you can build and realize projects, whatever field you're from. So I worked with her for a few years. I was helping her run the workshop. And it's over there when I saw the sort of interdisciplinary nature of design, and how people from all different walks of life, they didn't even need to be a designer. They used to come there and work on projects, and just the way that everyone sort of worked together, you get like so many different perspectives from people from other fields, mechanical, electrical, computer science. And yeah, I was just fascinated by this, because we could bring all these skills into an art project to design, for example, an experiential pavilion that has like moving motors, that has like lighting, and also has like structural build. So we had to all work together to design like a space that people would go and experience something in. And I think that was the point where I was like, okay, I have these skills in architecture, but like, how can I sort of bring all these other things together? And I started looking for programs across the world that had this sort of special thing. At the time in India, I don't think there were a lot of courses doing exactly that. Now, as Veda says, there's like new media design. I think Srishti School of Art had something kind of similar. But I think because Annabelle, who I worked with, went to the Bartlett, I was like, Bartlett, I was kind of like just like a horse with blinders. I'm like Bartlett, and to be honest, I didn't really look at any other. No, I looked at other courses. There was one in Barcelona as well that did similar sort of masters, and then I think it was New York, NYU, and then also the Royal College of Art had a program which did similar work. But in the end, when I applied just to one, which some would say is a risk. Just applying to one course to do your master's. Like you're taking this big decision and you're just like going just for one thing. And I was lucky that I got it, mostly because like I had done some sort of work in this sort of field, and I could put that in my portfolio. So yeah, if you are doing that, taking such a risky decision, make sure you have the substantial work to back that. If not, like diversify and apply to many courses as possible. But again, this is my experience, and there was no exam really. We just had two interviews with the course director. He so with yeah, not two interviews, just one really. But I had an interview with him, and he asked me questions about what I had done, and he was, of course, impressed that I was a Bangalore University graduate because it's considered still like quite a good university, of course, abroad. And yeah, besides that, I just had to do the IELTS exam. So yeah, I'm not sure about other universities. Maybe they have other sort of exams and selection processes, but for me, it was just like apply with a portfolio, you get a conditional offer, and then after you go through an interview with the course director the course you are going to do, and he says yes, she says yes, then you will get a unconditional offer, which means you are good to go, and then you just have to like sort of pay pay your fees, and make sure you have your IELTS, and then get your visa. And once you have all that, you can yeah, you can go and do your masters. So yeah, I moved here, and I started doing the masters. It was split over 15 months, which is quite an odd sort of time, because usually masters are either like 2 years or some even 1 year. But this was 15 months because for us, the difference is that we have throughout these 15 months different points at where you showcase what you've been working on. So we have to actually display our work, like physical work that we do. We have to display, or whatever it is, like our design, our thinking. We have to somehow display it as a physical thing, so people can come. And so you have like open jury or open critiques, where anyone, even the public, can come and ask you questions about your work, and be like, okay, why are you thinking about this in this way? And you have to justify your design or your work with an answer as to why you're doing things a certain way. Um, so yeah, we had these different points of showcasing our work every term. In total, we have like sort of 4 terms. Um, but split over 15 months. And the first term is kind of like a crossover between the year that is graduating and the our year that joins. So we have an interesting mix of people who've already been on the course for like 12 months, and they are just graduating, just finishing. So we get to see what they're doing and how they did their work, and we even get to help. We are encouraged to help them. So, we sort of understand how the process works. And Yeah, so we have these this sort of mesh of the two courses, and then after that we're left on our own to work on our own projects. And at the end of the year, we have a big show where all the big the director of the Bartlett School and all people from the industry come and see our work, and some people even get jobs from that final show. Because they see your work and they're like, okay, this is impressive. Why don't you come work with me? So sometimes you can sort of focus your work based on what industry you want to get into. Like, for example, if you want to get into stage design, you can do a performance-based design, how you'd improve stage lighting, for example. And there will be someone from the theater industry who comes there and they see your work and they offer you a job as a stage designer or to design a set for a theater play in London or something like that. So you can sort of focus your final project on what you want to do in the future, which is similar, which is what I did. I really focused on lighting design, and yeah, so I sort of now my trajectory is sort of taking me there. I do lighting design as more as a personal sort of like a passion. So I apply for art funds, art grants, and like I have my own projects on like projection mapping lighting that I do. But now I've also found my way back as a audiovisual technician. So I, help students to, figure out how to use light in the built environment. Yeah, I hope that sort of summarizes it, my journey.
Hey, thanks, Ruben. Really, that is like say, uh, uh, see, some of the times, like say, what we like say, we don't know about that domain, but when we hear from people who are actually in that, it like say, it really opens the overall like say opportunities that are actually there and which are we are not even aware of. And as far as like say, when you mentioned Annabelle, right? We have like say one other initiative called as UVC Chronicles. So
Yes.
that's basically audio podcast of the alumni of like say there are I think 4, 5 seasons of podcast now. It's like say every episode is of 20, 25 minutes. We have done one of Annabelle, I think maybe 2 months before we have published that as well. So, I mean, like that is one of the things that our main focus is the alumni, like say the UEC alumni that we have, right? The core strength is one of them to make use of it, leverage, like say whatever we have. I mean, when like say Veda mentioned that he worked with one of the like say alumni Sham Sundar, or when you mentioned Annabelle, I'm pretty sure many of the people who are there here they also need to realize that that is something that they have to utilize, right? That is like say, everyone has to go through that. So I'm glad that you brought that up. So just before we like say go to the next question, there are two things that I would want to do. One is the chat, I mean the audience, whoever is there in the chat, if you have any questions, you can start putting it up here, and I will like say definitely ask them. Like say maybe two more questions I have for both of them, and then we will open up for the any of the live questions. Okay, that is one. Veda, like say, just before we jump to the other two questions, one small thing is about your journey, like say the masters in the college, I mean, in NID as such. How is that course structured and what do you have to go through with that? Maybe briefly about that.
Right. So about NID, like, so as I have said, it's 2.5 years course. 2 years is all. It's a bunch of modules, and the last 6 months is where you pick a graduation project and you work with a company, or you can also self-sponsor. But to talk about the modules, right? Like, I don't want to pick one course, but if I talk as a broader for all the courses, you can't miss a single module because these modules, the smallest module might be for a week, and the longest module could be for like 4 weeks or 8 weeks. So there is no bunking in the sense if you miss, you miss it because like experts from each domain they come, they teach or they show their work, and so you can't miss anything. If you miss something, there is no going back and picking, which is beautiful. And there is also no such thing that I mean, there is no attendance or such where like people are making note whether this person is attending or not. That's with the modules. But if I speak about the courses, I think what is interesting is how architects, how NID can help architects. There are some courses in NID which are architecture inclined. Example, like how I'm doing design for retail experience. It has a good intake for architects because architects are the one who explain the spatial needs to the other folks. Like we are a set of 15 people, but there is definitely an intake of 5 people who are architects, and these are the folks who explain the spatial needs to other people. Whereas we also have a course called digital game design, where like we might or might not consider game design for architects, but like the environment we see in game design is again architectural build. Like if you see architecture in those lens, like digital game design is a beautiful course. And there is a course called universal design. So if I very briskly put universal design is something which you design which is accepted by universe. Like, and what we architects usually do, especially if we talk about public buildings, right? We design it for everybody. It's not like curated for one client. So even that is a domain which is like where architects have a structure to like play a part. So there are really like these kind of courses which needs architects, in which these other designers do. But I'm saying I'm focusing on architecture because like this is the architecture coming to. So that's with that. And as I said, it's a 2 year course. Then for the graduation, we have placements. Like as this college is quite reputed, at least in India and also abroad. So there are good amount of companies which come try to pick you. So you do your graduation and you also get offered for a free placement most of the time, or like it's a good place to be. I don't know, like anything else you want to
No,
ask me
understood.
that?
Yeah, no, I understood. So, like say that is one of the major things. Like when you mentioned couple of the modules, of course, we will not be able to talk about the entire course. I understand, but when you mention couple of them, I think the people who are here they will be able to kind of at least grasp. Okay, this is what they can expect, and of course, like say whoever is interested to kind of do a little bit more research, they will definitely try to like say check it out on their own. The idea of like say today's session is to give them some kind of a starting point that okay this is there and let them kind of try to do their own research and learn, right? So yeah, so maybe like again just before we open up for the questions, two things that I would definitely want to kind of ask both of you would be, one is definitely the finance related, right? Because as you know, many of the people who join like say UVCE, the financial related question is definitely something in their mind, like say because it's not about just the dependency or anything. Of course, that is one of the reasons why some of the people before they join their higher studies, they work for some time, gain that financial independence, and then they get into the higher studies. That is the financial one is definitely one thing that I want to ask you. And you just mentioned it a little bit, so maybe both of you can elaborate a little bit more on the placement or the job related opportunities, because that is also one major factor that will go through everyone's mind before they get into any higher education, right? So Veda, we'll start off with you only. If you could just ask about these both aspects a little bit, and then we'll open up for questions.
Right, I'll start with the finance part. Like how much does this course actually expect on funds? So I'll talk about my journey. Like I took a loan. I took a student loan to join this institute, and the good part is most of the banks they offer you non-collateral loans. So I had a non-collateral loan. I did not have to worry. Like the banks were behind the just like you join because they were very sure the placements are beautiful and they can retrieve it very fast. So I went with Bank of Baroda, and like they give you non-collateral, and this course, roughly if I say it expects you 10 to 12 lakhs for 2.5 years, and the placement will let you clear the loan in good a year and two. Like I could clear my loan in 6 months after my full placement. So the placements are really tight, very good, and it's a good opportunity. It's a good opportunity to step up. So like that's very brief.
Yeah. So just one small additional thing. Would you still advise, like, say, people who want to, like, say, do it, just to have some kind of a work experience before they kind of get into this, or like, say, what would you suggest, Veda?
I don't know. Like I had a little bit of work experience and I joined. So what it gave me was with my peers, I had a perspective which I already learned, which I could share. But
Yeah.
whereas with my other peers who did not have work experience, they had a complete new experience which they could share with me. So I really can't suggest if you should work and join, or if you don't work and join, because we had both of them. It was a beautiful collab. So like I don't know, like if you think you're ready to apply, you apply.
Yeah.
Even when I applied to NID, it was not in the first shot I made it.
Oh,
This was my second shot I made it. If I would have got it in first shot, I wouldn't have had experience.
understood.
Yeah, only because I got it in the second year, like I had a years of experience to share.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a course which doesn't force you on like having experience, because you learn. So it's open. Like I wouldn't say that you need to have experience to join the course.
Understood. No. Yeah, I totally agree. Like, say, each one's experience and perspective and the overall uniqueness of everyone is definitely like, say, fit for their own journey. But yeah, I totally understand what you say. Yeah. So maybe let me jump to Reuben once and ask.
But once again,
Sure. Yeah.
once I don't want to put this way that join this course or join this institute
Uh,
for the sake of getting a placement.
correct.
Like, I just
Correct.
want to put this because like
Yes.
that is not
Yes.
what.
No. Yeah, I think, I mean, many of the people, like, say, should be aware of the aspect that when you're doing the higher education, it's just not for a better placement or anything. It's also about gaining the knowledge and increasing your horizon of experience and skills, right? I totally agree with you. It's just not about the placements at the end of the day. The only reason I wanted that to be a point was, of course, in couple of the people who had filled up the form, that was one of the things, like, say, opportunities after the masters. How is it? Can we know a little bit more about it? That is one thing. The second thing is, again, many of the people who come from UVCE, at least personally, I feel the mindset will be at least 50% of them, or maybe a little bit more, will always be that job oriented, and will I get placed? That will be a part of their mind. So that is why I wanted that aspect also to be answered. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Veda. Ruben, would you want to go ahead for the same thing once?
Yes, of course. So with me, because it was international master's course, well, you automatically know that means a lot of money. So I also sort of did a bank loan, a student loan, with some amount, and more. The rest was sort of like my family just sort of coming together to support me. And all my aunts and uncles decided to help me on the journey. So yeah, I was lucky in that way. And then the rest of the money I sort of applied to Axis Bank for a loan. And unlike Veda, I'm still paying that loan because it is a big amount. So at the time when I did the course, it was the fees was 25,000 pounds, so that roughly about 25 lakhs. Um, and so yeah, it is a big amount, but for some reason that is just the amount. As an international student, people from the UK pay a lesser amount. I don't understand why. um, it's very discriminatory in my opinion. But yeah, so it was 25,000 pounds, so 25 lakhs, and I took a student loan through Axis Bank. um, and yeah, I think I got a decent rate, almost similar as interest rate as like what Veda got. And yeah, so for me, because the amount is so big, I'm still paying back. And in terms of opportunities, I think I slightly touched on that when I was explaining earlier. It's like really need to go into the program with a sort of vision of what you want to do after. If it is architecture you want to do after, yes, you can. There are lots of opportunities, and now with the new sort of student visa, I did not have the same thing when I applied and I moved here. But a few years later, they introduced a student visa where you can stay for 2 years after the end of your master's program and work in the UK. um, but I didn't have the same thing. So I'm sure some of you know, if you've looked at applying abroad, but you need to have a visa to live and work in the UK, as is the case for most other countries. And to have a visa, you need to be sponsored by the company that hires you. So having a site of these companies that actually sponsor visas is very important, because there are lots of companies who will give you a job if you are well qualified, if you have the education, but they will not be able to sponsor your visa. So you could work for 2 years just to get that work experience, but then after that, maybe you have to move back, because the company cannot offer you a visa to live and work there. But if you find a company that offers that visa, then they will sponsor your visa. It's called a tier 2 visa. And so you can live and work there as long as that company keeps you. But if by any chance that company decides, no, you're not employed anymore, you have about 3 months to either find another job or to move back. So yeah, there is that aspect of, or that's a catch, I'd say, for working here. However, for 2 years for sure, you can like work here and gain some valuable experience before you move back. Personally, I have a different sort of visa which I applied for, which is like a tier 1 visa. Um, and it leaves me independent of any sort of sponsorship. So I don't need a company to sponsor me. But that's because I applied through an art route. You can also get it through RIBA, which is the Royal Institute of British Architects, and they might be able to endorse you. So you have this sort of tier 1 visa route, and then you can like work for 5 years. So I am almost at the end of my 5 years of visa in this route, after which I can apply for permanent residency, which I'm a few months away from. And then eventually, if I wish to, I can apply for a British passport. Um, I still haven't decided, but when I come to that, yeah, I'll figure it out. Um, yeah, I think anything else, Satish, or does that sort of cover?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, as again, as I told, right, this is just a initial point that I wanted to broadly give, like say, to the people who have joined here. If there is something specific, they will definitely be able to reach out, figure it, and try doing their own research.
Yes,
Because as you both of you told, it's individual perspective and your own
absolutely.
aspirations, what are your interests, etc. Right? So that is definitely something we would want to like say talk about. So there are a couple of questions here. If you see, one of them is like say as a B, many of them here are all definitely BArch students, right? So what is that something that you feel you could have done during the BArch and then you realized it later? Just to put it in a rephrase it maybe, what do you think now when you like say are doing your masters or you completed the masters? What is something that you felt like say, oh, this could have been part of or this I should have done it while I was doing my BArch itself. That would have helped me, or that would have given me the advantage. So that is one thing. So Ruben, do you want to take that first?
Yes. I think one thing I found very, very useful to have is hands-on experience. And when I say hands-on, I mean like actually working with your hands, with materials, with tools. I, at least for my experience when I did my master's, we were so purely based on drawing skills, and then eventually we started using software. So software skills, I was really good with that, but we did not have a lot of hands-on training, and this could be things like carpentry, or like, just working with other material, or just knowing the processes of how things are made, is so important. And I think, I'm sure Veda can agree with, working in retail design, you get into the details of how objects, come together and fit together. But I so before I went to the masters, I trained with a carpenter who's really good. And I learned some very essential sort of woodworking and making skills. And then also working at this place, the workshop in Bangalore, I learned how to do things like metal welding, and just metal work, and like electronics, and really doing things with my hand. That, because once you come here, or at least in UCL, we have such good facilities and workshops with tools and the state of the art equipment that you have access to. And you feel like if you don't have that training, you'll feel a bit lost. Of course, you can get trained over here, but like some of the students who come from here come from other places like the US and the UK. In their schools, they have modules where they have like workshop, they actually train, and they do carpentry, or they do some sort of DIY stuff. So I think my advice would be to, like, as much as you can, try and get hands on. I'm sure there'll be things that you can go and do outside of the course also, that you're doing right now, outside of your BArch, where, just like do a carpentry course, for example, or do learn some electronics if that interests you. Even things like, working with fabrics, or like there'll be workshops and you learn how to make bricks, for example. All these things can be really helpful when you do your masters, and it really gives you an edge, I think. The fact that you can work with your hands and you understand the basics of materials and how things fix together. Yeah, it's invaluable in my opinion.
Sure. Yeah. Veda, would you want to add something to that?
Ruben, that was perfectly right. And also I cannot also say that like what JC gave me was anything short. It was right, and the hands-on experience, whatever little I got, was also from the Annabelle Studio. I visited Annabelle Studio, the workshop, and that is where the introduction of design with electronics or design with robotics. This was the point where I was. But what I would say for your question is, see, as I said, UVC gave everything, but one thing I was little rigid with UVC was not attending their zonals or like zone NASA fest. If only if I did, I would have met more interesting people to understand more opportunities. I got to know about my university only after I joined an internship, where I got to meet people from other sectors, like other universities. I feel only if I would have done that, if I was not so rigid on attending these tests, right, I would have got this information way sooner. And pretty similar, I also feel what Reuben is saying, like if it's just not your college, also go attend some other studios where you get to meet people from other domains, and they just open it up. Yeah, I wish I did that more, but nothing short. UVC gave me nothing short also.
Yeah, yeah. No, of course. So yeah, I totally agree with you. The one thing again, if you see, the next question is also very much similar. Say for social impact projects, how can one get started as a student? That is one of the questions here. So now, when you mentioned the Zonasa and etc., right? That is when you interact with people, get to know these are the things that the students that will help them. But maybe I might be jumping the gun here. Would like say love you and Ruben to like say maybe mention that also about how should an architect student like say who's interested in social impact kind of a project, how can they get started with it? Veda, would you want to?
Do I really want to?
Okay. No, the simplest example is I know that just 2, 3 weeks before, or maybe a month before, there was this Namma Bengaluru challenge. Okay. So that was very, very open, saying that how do you improve Bangalore's infrastructure, anything. It is not specific domain. I think when people, students kind of try to get involved there, it opens up the overall horizon. That's what I personally feel.
No, I agree. And also, it's not that like I don't know if the opportunities are best put out because every time, like when I was doing my bachelor's, there were always focus put in our home social impact projects, and it just got to a point where how much am I like surface my shoes into it, like and also approaching. I did participate in few social impact projects,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's the opportunities which are not coming. I think opportunities are always put out.
Yeah.
It's that how much you are stepping in and like taking the first step. And,
Understood.
I feel it is. It, I feel 95% or 80% of us don't take the first step. Yeah, which is one among me. But
I
I think the opportunities are always like put out.
understood. Understood. Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. Ruben, one question that I would like you to also take up is the one of the questions is can like say can you suggest any particular master programs that has more scope? I don't want to get into more scope aspect, but just to kind of give an idea of what are the diverse options that are available, right? Maybe a couple of them that you have heard of, or which of your friends or your batchmates, other someone who has done it, right? Can you just give a couple of examples to the people here so that they get some idea that, oh, this is also an opportunity?
Sure, yeah. Even I was a little bit of like apprehensive to get in the scope
Correct. Yeah.
aspect of things
Yeah.
because like what is scope and who defines
Exactly. Yeah.
scope?
Yeah.
It's really, I think it really comes down to what you want to do and what makes you happy because I found that you can do the thing that is paid amazingly, but you can be miserable at the same time doing a job like that.
Yeah.
Look at what makes you happy. Of course, it's good to have a good income, but like there are also opportunities where you can do something that you like to do and also earn money at the same time. Um, in terms of, I mean, there are lots of different things around. Like at the UCL, there's one program called Design for Manufacture, where the focus is entirely on manufacturing techniques for building, for construction. They look at the latest technology with how to use robotics and how to use like 3D printing um, and it can even be like vernacular and simple techniques like just making mud bricks. It can be like really simple. So you really focus on the technologies of how you make these just simple things that when you put together you can build a big structure. And I feel like this is something that is very important for the future because as we're eventually like going to reach a climate crisis and we'll have shortage of materials and a lot of other aspects that will affect us in the future, and like we need more people to start thinking about how we can manage and mitigate these future sort of problems that we have. And so looking at courses that deal with things like that is I think like really important. And there's also like Veda said, there's a course about video game design. um, I think that's also something that's got immense potential for the future. We are moving a lot into like just digital
Virtual.
and yeah, things that are just virtual, and people are moving so much into XR, extended reality, virtual reality. And so design for like VR is huge. And there's also a video game course at the UCL, which is also a course that I help with. Um, and so yeah, it's like that's got immense I think like yeah uh, for the future. It's so yeah. I don't
I
know.
mean, I know, of course, see, the opportunities and the branches are like, say, that cannot be like, say, restricted to any particular thing, right? But just before I jump to Veda, maybe one other question that I would want, like, say, Ruben to just kind of take maybe a minute would be anything, like, say, any particular, like, say, the colleges or the courses that you are aware of, like, say, which, like, say, the students need to at least explore on their own, right? They should go and search online, visit the website and check out a little bit more to understand. So anything that you would suggest, Ruben?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll definitely recommend UCL first because
Yeah,
why not?
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
also a staff there now. So,
yeah.
and we were just named #1 for architecture in the world. And then there's also the AA School of Architecture in London. If you want to go more into art, I would look at the Royal College of Art, RCA. And then there is in Barcelona, there's IAC, that's IAAC in Barcelona, which is also a very good program. And then there's the program in Stuttgart University, which is very sort of mm, uh, structural focused, again, um, similar to like design for manufacture. I think the course is called ICD,
Okay,
Institute for Computational Design and Construction,
nice.
is also good. And then yeah, that I'm not so familiar with the American side of things, but there are many good courses over there. So I think because when I was looking for for myself, I was more sort of focused on Europe.
Europe.
And yeah, so I wouldn't be the right person to suggest, but definitely IAAC in Barcelona and ICD in Stuttgart are universities I looked at.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
besides UCL and AA School of Architecture in the UK.
Yeah, sure, sure. That, like I said, that gives them at least everyone a thought process on, like I said, Europe, as you told, right? If someone is interested, at least that will give them a starting point. That's what
Of
I
course.
wanted there. Veda, like say, on your side, like again, the same question, right? Is there something, some course or some institute that you would want the students to kind of at least have a look at it so that they kind of open up to the thought, explore a little bit more on that to get some idea about those kinds of things.
I don't know how much I can add to this because I did not do much research, especially looking at abroad. Even when I'm thinking about in India, I haven't done much, but I can definitely pick few institutes. Like I'll definitely recommend NIV, and it has 19 beautiful disciplines, and I couldn't take out any discipline out for architects because like I'm sure there is something or other thing which architects will have a play to play. Even for example, we have a course called photography design. The way we look at space, the way we arrange entities, like the others might not have that idea.
Correct.
So I'm saying like all these 19 courses which we have are beautiful. One should definitely look them to the website. Apart from that, there is an exam called SEED, CEED, and which gets you into all these good IITs and NIT colleges which have design as specialty. Like we have in Bangalore, we have in Mumbai, we have in Hyderabad, we have in we have in a bunch of places. Like all these IITs and NIT colleges, they have an exam called SEED, which is a little more technical. Also, it has design skills, but all those courses are brilliant for design. Not just architects, also for designers. So this is true. And lately, I also hear a lot about Srishti. And
Srishti School of Arts.
School of Art, and it's a college which we have in Bangalore, and that is commendable.
Okay,
And I think these are the lists I have, and I can
sure.
speak more about NID, like if anybody wants to get in touch.
Yeah, I would let's say definitely suggest that at the end. I know we are already at 1 hour. So what I would want to do is I know there may be a couple of more questions, everyone. I'm sorry. As like say we have told the speakers that it will be 1 hour, right? What I would want to do is I'll just take like say 1 minute from both of them to kind of like say tell their overall perspective and share their thoughts with you. And after that, you can definitely connect with them. Now that you know them and you have seen them, right? It is easier for you to connect them on the social media or etc. Okay, so before we get into that, Veda, let me start with you only to kind of summarize your thought or suggest something that you would want to the audience, Veda.
Right. I mean, I'm very glad the audience are from UAC because they are already in a wonderful college. And what is that? Apart from that, what I personally suggest is get some experience, do a master's course, do interdisciplinary course, and particularly if I speak particularly about architecture, right? Architecture is so unorganized for now, and there is a lot of scope for entrepreneurship in that. Like it's not that I couldn't get a job or like I could not sustain to that, but I started my own journey with my own startup, and I feel at least I definitely want more from my colleges to start their own journey and grow. I mean, there is definitely failure,
Yeah,
but yeah, but this is what I suggest. Like I wouldn't get a good experience, get a good college, work for a while, but I suggest to start their own. Don't know if this helps, but
no, no, I totally because I am like a startup thing. I have my own small company, so I totally resonate with whatever you say, Veda. I totally agree. But yeah, so let me go to Reuben now. Once, Reuben, from you, what would you like to say? You're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, I think for me personally, it's like, and I'll just speak from the lens of like if you're aiming for things to go abroad, as I mentioned earlier, try and diversify and learn as many other skills as you can, because this also helps your employability in the future when you have like multiple different skills. It doesn't even have to be in the design field. Even if you want to go get some experience in management, like do some small courses on the side. And then like if you're really focused on going abroad, look at summer schools. A lot of places do summer schools, which is just like a summer program for a few weeks, that won't be as expensive. You just can probably just go on like a tourist visa, and you just stay there, you learn, you get the experience, you understand what it's like to be in a different country and to do a course in a different country. And yeah, that will make you decide better if you want to want to
Sure.
do something abroad. But at the same time, there's so many opportunities in the country as well. And look at that. Look at I'm sure there are some schools within India, and like all these schools like NID, also, and Srishti. So my brother studied at Srishti, and I know that they do some sort of summer schools. So yeah, definitely explore these options, I would say. And yeah, just like in those 5 years that you do in architecture, like just try and get absorb as many other things as you can besides just architecture, and I think that'll just help you overall as a all-round designer. Yeah, for your future.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Ruben. So what I would want to kind of put forward is, of course, because most of them are from, like say, the students, right? I would want to say that, see, I know it is not still, we have not been able to do that in the JB campus. We have set up a lab called as Marvel in the main campus, the KR Circle. where we have a couple of 3D printers. We have this VR setup from the alumni, the UVC Graduates Association. We have spent around some 14-15 lakhs and we have set up a small lab there. So I would request the students to come down, just explore. It is exclusively for students itself in that way. But I know that it will be very difficult for the access point of view. We will definitely see what can be done in the JB campus as well. Now, because Veda and Reuben, both of them mentioned that about the workshop and how that is very essential for you to kind of gain the knowledge, we'll definitely try to do that. But before I kind of wrap up, thanks to both Veda and Reuben for joining. What I will be doing is people who had registered, like say, of course, this video we will put it up on the YouTube so that anyone can just go through that again if they missed it today for some reason. The other thing that I'll also do is, hopefully you both are fine, is I'll share with the LinkedIn, like say, contact with the students so that they can, like say, reach out to you if they have any specific questions. I will request them is not to, like say, put very generic questions like, okay, how will this help? Which is the best course according to you? Not such kind of questions. I would want them to be very specific, very clear about the question. If they can articulate a proper question and if they can reach out, I'm pretty sure, like say, you can also share your thoughts and suggestions with them. So that is what I will ask them to do. So hopefully that's fine with both of you, right? If I could share the LinkedIn profile with the students, that's fine,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Thanks. So thank you both of you. I know, like say, you had like say other schedules and etc. Irrespective of that, you decided to join us today and share your thoughts. Thanks a lot. We'll keep in touch, and if there is anything more that we can, like say, ask you, request you, we will definitely like say reach out to you again. Okay. Thanks,
Of
Ruben.
course.
Thanks, Veda.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Bye.